I've always thought that pruning plants is a really weird concept. You're essentially destroying your plant or cutting pieces off of your plants, and somehow that's supposed to benefit the plant. What I wanted to do was do a little bit of research to figure out why, when, and how you're supposed to prune your plants, because that's definitely something that I want to start doing for my plants, especially when they start to get bigger. So let's start out by talking a little bit about why you would want to prune your plants. And there's a few reasons you would want to do that. So the first reason is you want to remove the dying or decaying plant leaves, or parts of the plant that are dying off. And the reason you want to do this is because if you keep that dying, dead part of the plant stuck on your plant, then it's going to keep sucking away energy from the rest of your plant. And it's going to leave less energy left over for your plant to invest in growing healthier branches from the main stem. And so by cutting off and removing those dead pieces, you're essentially saving your plant from having to waste unnecessary energy. And it's also going to help prevent the spread of any disease to the rest of your plant. So it's kind of like quarantining your plant from the disease that's slowly creeping up and making its way to the rest of the plant. The second reason you might want to prune your plants is to promote growth. And when I first read that, that was pretty counterintuitive to me. It's like you're removing plants in order for it to grow more. And that seemed a little bit of a weird concept to me. But essentially how it works is when you prune your plants, if you do it correctly, you should prune it right where the nodes are. And if those nodes are broken off, you can either propagate the cutlings, and you can also give the nodes opportunity to grow more nodes and sprout off even more branches than it had to start with. So by pruning your plant, while it might seem a little bit counterintuitive, it gives it more opportunity to grow bigger and larger and more fuller than it was before. And kind of along those lines, the third reason why you might want to prune your plant is to shape the growth of that plant. So if you consider that pruning your plant is going to cause that branch to sprout off more branches, that can also give you an idea of how you're going to shape that plant. So maybe you want a certain part of the plant to grow in a certain direction. Maybe you don't want it to grow too much in one area where it's already really full, and you want to direct it to grow more outwards, in an outwards direction. Maybe you want to direct your pruning to those nodes that are kind of facing a little bit more outwards and have better chances of growing in the direction that you want it. You want to invest the plant's energy into growing more in the directions that you want the plant to grow to fill in a certain shape. And the fourth reason, kind of mentioned this already, but it's to propagate the plants. So if you cut stems off of a plant correctly, you can use those cutlings to grow and propagate your plant, essentially reproduce itself. So by cutting off a plant, and if you place that cutling in the soil or in some water, you're allowing that cutling to grow roots of its own and essentially spawn a new plant. It's kind of like making a clone of itself. So propagation is another reason why you might want to prune your plants. So now that we got the why out of the way, let's talk a little bit about when you might want to prune your plants. So the when is pretty simple in my opinion. You want to prune your plants when it has the most opportunity to grow. And that's going to be right before the growing season, which is usually in early spring or maybe like late winter for most plants. And that's going to give it the most opportunity to turn those places where it got cut off into bigger, more fuller, even more branches than it started with. And by cutting it off right before the growing season, that's when it's going to have the greatest potential to grow even more than what you were hoping for, especially compared to having to do it in the rest of the year when the plant isn't growing so much. While there's nothing particularly wrong with cutting it or pruning it in the rest of the year, it's going to probably not give you the most optimal results that you might be hoping for. Maybe you might only get 1 or 2 sprout offs from that node compared to maybe like 3 or 4 if you had done it in early spring. So long story short, if you want to prune your plant, it's best to do it in early spring. But the rest of the year, there's no reason why you couldn't do it the rest of the year, but you're just going to get the best results in the springtime. So let's talk a little bit about how you're actually going to do the pruning. So first thing you want to think about is what kind of shape do you think your plant is going to be in? What kind of shape are you trying to achieve with your plant? And that's something you want to think about before you start pulling the scissors out and start snipping, because you want to be really careful and plan out where exactly you're going to do the pruning. Because once you cut the plant, there's no going back from that. There's no undo buttons or any mulligans of that sort. So you want to make sure you really plan this out and be 100% sure where you're going to cut your plant before you actually do the pruning. And when I say consider the shape, you just want to think about what areas of your plant do you want to see expanded a little bit more, and what areas do you think are probably already really full and don't need any additional growth. And that's going to help guide you into what type of nodes you want to be looking at in terms of what direction they're facing. So first of all, you're going to need some ideally really sharp scissors or maybe some shears. And you want to make sure that you always sterilize those tools before using them. Because when you're cutting your plant, you want to make sure that you're not introducing any fungus or bacteria into that cut, because that cut spot is going to be really vulnerable to attack by invasive species or invasive organisms like bacteria or fungus. And you definitely don't want to introduce any disease in your plants when you're doing this. And so by sterilizing your tools, you're going to make sure that none of that is going to be stuck on your tools and get transferred over to your plants when you do the cutting. So to do the sterilization, there's a few ways you could do this. One way that I'm showing you right now is just putting the scissors over a fire. And by heating the scissors up a lot, that's going to burn off any fungus or bacteria that might be stuck on there. The other way you could do it is by dipping your tools in ethanol or a bleach and water mixture. And that's also going to work equally well. It's going to pretty much destroy any bacteria or fungus that might be on your tools. Just make sure to really wipe it down afterwards, because you don't want to have any water left over on those scissors or shears, because that can cause the tools to start rusting. So if possible, do a quick wipe down and you should be good to go. And you could probably do the wipe down after you're done pruning your plants, because you don't want to have any contaminants on your towel or your cloth get onto the tools right after you've sterilized it. So you can go ahead and start pruning your plants with those tools, but just make sure to wipe them down afterwards if you use ethanol or bleach and water, some kind of bleach and water combination. And if you're going to use bleach and water, make sure you dilute the bleach with water. I've heard that a 1:9 ratio of bleach to water is going to be good enough to use for sterilizing your tools. So once you have your sterilized tools, now let's get to the pruning. So when you're pruning your plants, you're always going to want to look for the nodes in your plants. So here I'm showing you a clip of my Moses in a Cradle plant, and this one has gives you a pretty clear idea of where the nodes are. So the nodes, you can see I'm kind of pointing at it with my fingers. It's kind of where the leaves are sprouting off of. And there's like multiple nodes on this plant that I'm showing you here. And you can kind of tell where the nodes are because you can see that if you trace the leaves back to the main stem, you can kind of tell where that point is where they start to grow out of the plant. And that's where the source of that growth is coming from. So it's those sources, those nodes, that are going to be really special for you. That's what you really want to pay attention to, because that's where the growth is going to happen in your plant. So when you've identified your nodes, what you're going to do is you want to cut in between those nodes. And what I mean by that is you're going to want to cut about 1/2 inch, maybe 1 inch above that node, because after you do that pruning, after you cut off that section of your plant, it's going to die back a little bit. And you don't want it to die back right into the node because you cut too close to it. You want to make sure to give a little bit of a buffer so that the node isn't affected. So once you've found some nodes, you want to think about how far you want to cut back on the plant. So as kind of a rule of thumb, you don't want to remove too much of your plant. You don't want to remove more than 25% of your plant. Because if you remove too much of your plant, then it's going to have fewer leaves to perform photosynthesis, and that might cause the plant to not do so well after the pruning, especially if it has to support this new growth, but it doesn't have enough resources to perform photosynthesis to support that growth. So you want to make sure that you don't remove more than 25% of your plant. So this is probably not something that you want to do with really young plants that really don't have that much space, like with the Moses plant I was showing earlier. I think for those type of plants, you probably want to wait a little bit for them to grow a bit bigger before you start pruning it. But at the same time, you also want to cut a little bit more than you might be comfortable with. And what I mean by that is you don't want to just cut off a few inches of your plant, because you want to consider that the plant is going to grow back even greater than it was before. So when you think about it, once you cut that plant, it's going to grow back bigger and take up more space than it had before. So essentially what you're removing is going to be replaced eventually by new growth. And that's also a little bit counterintuitive, but if you remember, pruning your plants is supposed to promote growth. And so if you think about it that way, you want to be conscious of how far you're going to prune your plant. You want to prune it a little bit further than you might be comfortable with. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with being a little bit more on the cautious side, especially if it's your first time pruning your plants. because you can always just cut a little bit and see how your plant responds to that, and just kind of see what happens and kind of get an idea of how your plant is going to respond to pruning. But that's pretty much it when it comes to pruning it. There's not that much to it. All you got to do is prune it about ½ inch above the nodes, and just be conscious of what kind of shape you're trying to achieve, and you should be good to go. Just don't remove too much of your plant. Like, don't cut it off at the base of the main stem or something. That's pretty much it for my research. That's what I've found when it comes to pruning. I hope that was helpful to you if you are considering pruning your plants. If you enjoyed it, if you learned something, leave a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.